Hello, and welcome to the Module 1, Day 1 video lecture. I am instructor Jonina Anderson-Lopez, and these video lectures will happen twice for every module, and they are required if you want your full range of points on certain assignments. And so we'll start with a slideshow lecture. I'll usually cite some examples throughout, and we're going to end with a preview and explanation of upcoming readings and assignments. So you don't know me. We're not going to have a face-to-face class, unfortunately, or yay, because it's summer and who really wants to be on campus during the summer? But as a way for you to get to know me and me to get to know you, there is an assignment, a first day attendance assignment that you need to submit before 9 p.m. Eastern on June 28th, Monday, that first day of class. And it's going to ask you these questions. And I'm going to answer these questions so that you can get to know a little bit something about me. For the first one, year in school intended major, I already finished school, finished my PhD in 2019, majored in interdisciplinary studies, humanities and culture, with an emphasis on cycles of diversity in horror fiction. And so for that second question, you can probably guess why I would ask it. But my favorite horror movie is Get Out. I love psychological horrors, and if they do use violence, it's sporadic and it's very intentional, although that doesn't preclude me from watching just kind of gore fest movies, but they're not my favorite. Also, Insidious is another great horror movie. Anyway, favorite book, Fahrenheit 451. It was required reading for me in 5th grade, and it was just like mind-blowing. And it was short. It was great. It was like reading a book of poetry. Good writing, I think, is something that reflects a great truth. You read it and it evokes something for you, or it's so plain on the page that you're like, wow, yes. And for me, an example of that is Thomas King's autobiographical novel, The Truth About Stories, another short-ish book, and it's really, it's eye-opening, some of his perspectives about life. So good writing in a professional sense, or writing that evokes a great truth in a professional sense, I think that translates to say exactly what you mean, using as little words as possible. In a professional sense, no one gives a crap about the flowery context, or sometimes they don't even care about your opinion. They just want to know what's happening, how quickly can you relay it, and in a professional sense, just get to the truth, say what you mean. So understanding concepts, that's, you're going to find that in the modules. It's a sort of reading that you're going to have to force yourself to do, because there you're going to find the links for the video lecture, and you're going to find details about not only the readings, but about concepts that relate to the assignments you have coming up. If you never go to understanding concepts in the modules, you're never going to understand the assignment, because they are scaffolded, they are complex, and the understanding concepts facilitate any sort of maybe lecture or things that we would have covered in a face-to-face class. I input my lecture materials into the understanding concepts. And if that's not for you, you're like, I I don't like that. I maybe I like podcasts or I want to listen to something. There's something called Immersive Reader. There's a button at the top of Understanding Concepts page. It's in the right-hand corner. If you click it, it will narrate what's on the page to you. You can walk around, you can do other things while you're listening to the Understanding Concepts page, and you'll get the overview of kind of what you need to do for those next few assignments in the module. And then watching these video lectures, as pointless as they may seem, it includes a password that some of your assignments will ask you for if you want to get all the points for that assignment. And usually you'll find the link for the video lectures at the top of Understanding Concepts in the left-hand corner. So the purpose of professional and technical writing would be to introduce you to the idea of what is professional, like what would a professional email or memo, letter, what would that look like? And that's professional or workplace rhetoric. And then if I am drafting something like an email, memo, letter, or something even more complex, how should I word that? I kind of know the layout because the teacher showed me or I looked it up, but how would I word it? And then that plays into audience and who's going to see it. Is it your boss or is it your colleague? And that's how you would craft your wording or your tone. And we're also going to touch on group project dynamics, not just me throwing you into a group, which I am going to do that, but throwing you into a group with purpose, because in a workplace, you're going to be thrown into a group. You're not going to like those people. You're not going to like working in a group and kind of feeling helpless and giving up a center of control that you're probably used to. But you're going to have to practice giving up some control in a sense, sharing that, working on documents collaboratively, dealing with rejection, dealing with each other with kindness, even if you don't like each other. So we're going to go over all that. It's going to be very compacted in these next few weeks. We're going to touch on that. And so there's different phases of the course, with the first project touching on the very basics of writing workplace documents as an employee from that sort of perspective. And then we're going to jump into researching for project 2, and you're going to have to research for your team and for your topic. And then finally, at the closing of the semester, you're going to, with your team, have put together a project proposal and solution. So when you're finding this course on Canvas, you're clicking around, you're like, what's most important? These are some of the most important elements. Clicking on modules, that is a must. And like I said, there's 6 weeks of the course, so there's 6 modules, but they're fat because I've broken them up similar to how I would do in a face-to-face course. If we were going to meet on Monday, Wednesday, here's what we're going to do Monday for day 1, and here's what we're going to do for day 2, Wednesday. And so I've broke it up using that sort of thinking. And you're thinking, what am I going to do? The module will tell you, but also the assignment page will tell you. The syllabus page will help you. If you click through to the bottom of the syllabus page, it has a listing of everything that's due. Sometimes it shows you everything, and sometimes it doesn't if I haven't published it, because concerning the modules, I only publish modules 1 week in advance. But if you go to the MO module, that one that's before module 1, it does have a link that says assignment dates or important dates, something like that. And it has a list of all the assignments that are due for this semester. If you're a person who needs to know, or you want to stay on track and all of that. The calendar on Canvas will also help you understand what's due, and it's a visual way to look at that. and then you need to know how to navigate to USF Rights, the platform where you will be accessing your e-text for the course, and it's also the platform where you're going to turn in rough and final drafts of major projects. Personal responsibility. I highlight this because even though I just showed you navigational stuff and here's where you can find what's due and use the calendar, knowing what is due is your responsibility. You're a college student, you're an adult, and even if something in the video lecture, I say something or I forget to remind you of something, that's not my fault. There are all of those places for you to go and look, and your education, again, is your responsibility. And the Canvas due dates are always the default. So if you're gonna text or email me like, in the video lecture, you didn't tell me about the peer review and I didn't know, you'll still get a 0. Like I said, the video lectures have a password associated with them that you need to write down or just remember it for the day 1 or day 2 assignment that will ask for the password from a certain video lecture. This one is Don't Fuck with Cats, and it's a pretty awesome but well, gruesome documentary on Netflix. And so you type that into one of the assignments, and we'll go over that in a little bit so that I know that you watched the video lecture. This syllabus, I'm not going to exhaustively go over, but you really should. And this is not a class where I offer a syllabus quiz because you guys are older. Like I don't want to grade a syllabus quiz, and I mean, I understand the reasoning behind them, but I usually only use them for lower level courses. The important things about the syllabus that you really should access, it's highlighting the fact that this is an asynchronous course. I'm never going to require us to meet online for a meeting. Later, when you're in your group projects, you and your group are going to decide if you have to meet via Zoom or just let's talk on this Google Doc at whatever time or whatever, but that's up to you and your group. You want to contact me because you have a question, you can use my phone number once you download the app WhatsApp and you text me through there. If you just text me without the app, I'm going to ignore it. And then if you're like, that's weird, I don't want to text her, you can email me. If you text me, I'll get back to you most likely that day or within that hour, depending on what hour it is. And please never call me at like midnight or something. I'm not going to pick up. Another important part of the syllabus, it'll tell you about your required course text, which I already said is available on USF Rights. It's $47. You need it by the end of week 1 or 2. Syllabus also has these other important parts. In particular, my attendance policy. It's a 6-week course. If you miss 2 consecutive weeks, you're already on thin ice, and it's going to take your grade down somewhat. And if you miss 3 consecutive weeks of this course, you're not going to pass. In the same vein, if you miss 3 non-consecutive weeks of this course, you're not going to pass because you've missed half the course. It's not going to work out. Plagiarism is a big one because we're sharing work in the forums sometimes, and I have in the past had students just copy and paste other student work and turn it in as their own. And also, since you were working in a group, I hate that I have to say this too, but if you're working in a group, never try to take credit for the group work if you did not actually put forth any sort of work. And there's a mechanism for that we'll talk about as the course goes on. And likewise, never try to keep your teammates from inputting any work, like, you know, it's 2 days before the assignment and you're like, I'm just going to turn it in myself and say that they didn't help at all. And then you turn it in without them. That's not plagiarism, but it is a form of, you're blocking them from doing their work, kind of, or you didn't reach out at all, but you tell me you did, and it gets hairy. But my late policy, I don't accept anything template, nothing, not in a 6-week course, sorry, and that's it. Collective feedback files. For rough and final drafts, I don't give individualized feedback in the form of text-based comments. Rather, I grade you on a Likert scale that was instituted by the USF English Department. And then I offer detailed sort of feedback via collective feedback files. We'll talk about that later. The fact that you're going to have to format your assignments, your smaller kind of class exercises, using APA or MLA, whichever one you're more comfortable with. We'll talk about that later. And the syllabus offers a weekly breakdown, stuff to expect from week to week. Part of that breakdown mentions Project 1. That's going to span the first 2 weeks of our course. Project 1 is essentially 4 workplace scenarios. You're going to read all of them, and then you're going to choose the one that you like the best or the one that you hate the least. For each scenario, there's 3 professional people you would have to respond to concerning the scenario. Keeping your pretend hat on, thinking, okay, Faith is my boss, and this dude is a supplier, and this dude's another person. How am I going to respond to each person? Because they have different roles, and I have a different role, and each scenario should tell you what your role is. Like if you're a manager, if you're a I don't know, whatever. They have different perspectives. And part of choosing the scenario and having those 3 people to respond to is what type of document should I use to respond to each person? And then you're going to start your outline, and that's later this week, and we'll go over more details for that later. But just so you kind of have an idea of what Project 1 is, it's 4 scenarios, and this first one is more of a retail-based scenario. Think of a district manager working at a Target or a Walmart. There is a problem concerning a dedicated salesperson being in the aisles, and managers at the stores, they're thinking that this dedicated salesperson is being lazy when really they're supposed to be hanging out in that aisle and helping customers in that sort of way. And so you have 3 people as the district manager that you need to draft documents to respond to them about the scenario. And you're either responding to them with an email, a memo, or a letter. And it can be 2 emails and a memo, or it can be 2 memos and a letter. Whatever combo you decide on is up to you, but you're choosing from those 3 things, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves too. You don't like the retail scenario, then maybe you like this tech-based one where you're a tech manager of an internet design firm. You have clients, and one of your clients is not happy because something was posted on their webpage that wasn't supposed to be there, and your other the person who manages the page, another company, is the one that effed up, and you have to deal with the company that you pissed off because something was posted on there that they didn't like, the company you employ that deals with Sheila's web page, and then you need to update your president of the company on what's happening. So if you like tech-based stuff, maybe scenario 2 is where you decide, okay, I'm going to respond to these 3 people because I kind of get this scenario. Scenario 3 is more municipalities based. Think Parks and Rec kind of thing. And you're a facilities project manager for a national chain, but you're dealing with permit issues and industrial wastewater systems, and you need a permit and something's amiss with it. So you need to contact this guy who works at utilities. You need to contact your facilities manager and what could be done about that. And then the VP of facilities, your supervisor, how would you update them on that issue? And again, thinking, am I going to send Anthony an email and Sarah a memo and Anita a letter? And as we get into those kinds of genres of writing, you'll be more comfortable with it. but maybe scenario 3 is for you. Scenario 4 is office culture and an issue that arises. You as the office administrator, oh, I went back to the other one. As an office administrator, you become aware that one employee was told that she couldn't have her piercings and or her tattoos, I forget. But she says she has them because of religious cultural beliefs. But the handbook says employees cannot have them. So you need to reach out to your boss, to this person at HR that wrote the rule, to find out how you can make this new employee comfortable and fit in with the workplace culture and what needs to maybe be revised at HR. So if this kind of scenario is for you, then scenario 4 is it. But so there's 4 different exhaustive scenarios concerning project 1. That's all it is. 4 different pretend situations. Each one has 3 people, of which if number 4 or 3 or 1 or 2 is for you, you're concentrating on these 3 people and how am I going to respond to them using what type of professional writing. That's project 1 for weeks 1 and 2. And this is a brief overview of that, a visual way to think about replying to Anthony and Sarah and Anita, and how are you going to do that? What type of format? But we'll get into the details of that later. Right now, let's look at the upcoming readings and assignments. Okay, so we're clicking on our course. Make this bigger. I'll zoom in a little bit. And we are going to modules. We can see the readings and the assignments on one kind of collated place. And we have, hang on one second. So we have the first module that you should have gone over already. And then the one that we're focusing on is week 1, just the day 1 chunk. And we have the understanding concepts. I'm going to go to it just to show you that immersive reader button really quick. If you just want to listen to all the stuff there, it's going to read it out loud to you. I don't know if you can hear that. But so it reads it out loud to you, and it's maybe an easier way to digest all the module information from understanding concepts. We have 2 things that are due Monday, June 28th, and they're due at different times. I don't like to do that, make things due at different times. Really, I'm going to say mostly everything's going to be due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, except for this first thing that you have to do. It's due at 9 p.m. because I have to take attendance as required of me as a USF teacher, and I have to do it at a certain time. So those things we went over earlier, favorite horror movie, blah, 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 you answer that, hit reply. And after you submit, you come back later and respond to at least 2 of your peers' initial posts so you get your full 5 points. And also, your initial posting needs to be submitted by 9 p.m. on 6/28. Otherwise, you're going to be dropped from the course. It's not just missing out on 5 points. You're going to be dropped. So that's super important. Please do it. This reading introduces you more to USF Rights, this separate platform that you need to access for your textbook. And at first, it was probably going to ask you to log in and pay and all that silly stuff. Once it does that, it's going to ask you to authorize. And this separate platform where you access the book, the e-text, after it'll show you, it might show you different courses, it might not. For me, it's going to show a lot of different ones. You click the course you're in, ENC3250, and then you can go to e-text. And that's important because I'm going to ask you about or tell you about the readings in each module, but they won't be there necessarily. For this one, yes, because it's the first week and don't know who will have the book and who won't. But in subsequent weeks, I'm just going to tell you chapter 1 or chapter 4, and you're going to go access it on USF Rights and look for it in the navigational tool, or finding it by, I don't know, there's got to be some easy way to find it, or looking at the contents page right there. Later, when you're submitting your rough and final draft, you would go to projects, and you would go to practice upload. That's an assignment that's due coming up, and I'll change these dates because they're reflecting a different day and time. But the dates and times that are on Canvas are usually always correct. But if it's not correct on USF Rights, yes, email or text me and I'll take a look. So you can see there's just a few assignments that are on here to submit. And one of those would be the practice upload, but the details for the practice upload are here on Canvas. It gets a little confusing, but we'll work through it. And basically, I try to break down assignment guidelines into parts so that you know what you have to do, or if there's a reading or something, then you're like, okay, I'll do that part first, and then this is what I need to do, and maybe here's some details about the assignment. And this assignment is creating an MLA or APA template, and that means a page where you're going to always, maybe you're probably always going to use it for your assignments. If you're going to use MLA, your template is going to look like this. If you're going to use APA, your template is going to look different, and you could find it on, when you go click new on Microsoft Word, you can find the template pretty easily. But for me, if you're going to use APA, I want to see a cover page, and then your assignment. If it's a major assignment, I expect to see cover page abstract, and then your actual assignment. So you bring up whatever template you decide on, APA or MLA, and we're going to go with the MLA one because that's what I like. And you're answering this question based on your own experience. You don't need to look at the book. Answer that question for me. A sentence, 2 sentences, however long or short. And then you're not uploading the document here. You see, submission says nothing because you can't upload it to Canvas. This is telling you how to do it. You save it, and then you submit it. You go to USF Rights because you already brought it up here and you have it open. And you go to practice upload, and you upload it there. However, it's going to look different for you. And it's 5 points. And it says required, but it's required because it's going to force you to access USF Rights and to upload something. And that's why it's required. It's 5 points. You can miss out on it. But every 5 points in a 6-week course, it can start to count for a lot. Okay. So we've looked at 2 assignments. We saw the readings and that there's downloads for them, or you can access them on USF Rights. And then one more assignment that's due 2 days after the first day of class, purpose and audience. And it's priming you for project 1 because it has a scenario. It's a really silly one about Doritos. I didn't make it up. Just precursor there. And then based on the scenario, you have to write a response to 3 people. Before you write, you need to consider purpose. Why are you writing this? Who is your audience? Your audience is going to be here. But you need to think about those 2 things before you start writing, and you need to review basic email structures, because unlike project 1, that's for later, this tiny assignment wants you to draft 3 emails instead of choosing, am I drafting email, memo, letter? But even though you're like, I've written so many emails, a professional email has a structure, and there's certain tips and tricks for getting things just right. And I'll know if you read this or you didn't, and I'll know if you accessed some of the required readings and otherwise by the structure of how you're submitting this. I will know. So you're going to take these 3 people and note that you have to have the password on this assignment for the video lecture. And you have your template up for this other assignment. And you know you have to write an email to your boss. So you draft your email below. You need to write one for your teacher. You need to write one to your friend. And then I want to see the password. Either at the bottom of your document, or you can put it at the top, somewhere. Some people put it in their titles thingy here. But the 3 responses, your 3 emails, it's going to be on one cumulative document. Brevity, or saying what you mean using as little words as possible, is your best friend in this class. So this shouldn't be spanning a bunch of pages just to impress me, or because you're like, it's the first assignment and I'm just trying it. Try to use as little words as possible. And this assignment, again, is due June 30th. This is due at 11:59 p.m. You upload it here to Canvas. If you're wondering what kind of standards am I looking for when I'm grading this assignment that has more kind of moving parts than the other ones, I do try to include little rubrics or checklists for you on most assignments, and you can see that here. And concerning Module 1, Day 1, that's pretty much everything that we need to cover. And if you have a question about anything you saw in the video, you can email or WhatsApp me, and you can always find that at the bottom of Understanding Concepts pages. I'll have my phone number and I'll have my email there for you. And until next